We are operating on a frequency of 52 megacycles by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. A test program follows. To you who are trained technically, I need hardly say that there's still a number of problems to solve. I guess you know them as well as anybody knows. But I think we've proceeded far enough to justify the statement, at least, that these technical problems are not insurmountable.
Time to get used to do all the legwork with the streaming, and I'll just sit here and look pretty. Well, I'll look at least. So here we're looking at the KOTE 10 breakdown data for week 7. So as ever, thanks to Liftops for putting this together. We really appreciate all the work he's done over the last few events, especially with all the detail he's gone into. And it's been really interesting for us to look into how things have been adapted. So let's see what we're talking about this week. So today we're looking at the SAS 80 decks. So this is all the decks that have been listed as under SAS 80. So character that have been classified as max SAS of 80 by the people submitting them.
Yes, these are the highest decks in the event.
Yeah. So the average SAS is 78.6. So that's pretty impressive. AARC only on 65.1, which is so we're looking at a lot of synergy in places here. 23.2% better than average. It's roughly top 1.5% of all decks there. So we are seeing some of the cream decks that aren't stupidly high SAS.
But we are seeing that, looking at that the SAS 80 decks do not contain a lot of artifacts.
Yeah,
20%
down. Yeah,
21% down is not an insignificant amount.
No, not at all. And we'll be comparing the SAS decks to the global averages. So here we go. So what we're seeing here is the SAS 80 is what's in our 80 decks. The average is what's the overall average for all the decks of Keyforge, not just for the event. So we're seeing synergy up significantly, and now no one's going to be surprised about that. I'd be surprised if all the decks here aren't synergistic, whatever the word is.
It's not a lot, but the artifact control is quite interesting. Seeing there's not a lot of artifacts being brought, but the amber control, everyone's expecting rushy, fast decks. So a 50% increase, and that's not one of those insignificant ones. That is a huge amount, and look at the efficiency as well, almost 100% increase.
Oh, completely. We are seeing the best decks here, the best decks you can get under 80, as we fully expect.
Oh, definitely. That was part of why we chose this to be our last event. Is we wanted to see the best of Keyforge throughout multiple tiers.
Oh, completely. And I think we're seeing it as well. So, I'm going to move on. So this week's is there we go. The highest level is full. No one's surprised. This is mainly mass mutation and Worlds Collide. I don't think. Maybe I would have seen a little bit more KOTE, but
I'm surprised that KOTE is only at 20%, a fifth of the pie. I expected it to be much closer to mass mutation and Worlds Collide.
But I also expected Dark Tidings to be closer to 1%.
There are some very, very good Dark Tidings decks out there. Same to AOA. I imagine they're the ones that have been brought. And as we've seen over the last 2 weeks when we looked at 75 and 70, AOA has gradually gone down. But KOTE only being 20% here really gets me, because as good as Worlds Collide is, I still think KOTE's better.
I think KOTE is a better set. Worlds Collide has better decks when you're doing mixed formats because of the heavy board presence. I mean, it's easy to control what you're playing against.
You don't know what you're playing against until you actually come across. You've got to put. It's kind of like preparing for Volta.
Oh yeah, completely.
You know you're going to be going up against 6 or 7 very skilled players with very good decks. So it's quite interesting to see that Worlds Collide's on there. Maybe because even if I was going to a Volta or anything there, I'd still be looking more towards my KOTE or my mass mutation. But maybe I've overlooked some more Worlds Collide decks.
Maybe.
That's very true, Andrew. KOTE setting the baseline being exactly 1/5 because it's 5 sets, so that it would make it like the average amount. It does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, right. Now here we're seeing Shadows the largest house, Logos second, but interesting here, Untamed is one of the lowest I've seen.
This is exactly what I predicted last week when you weren't here, Chris. I said that when it comes to the 80s, over the last 2 weeks, we've seen this steadily creeping up, pushing Untamed down. And I said, at 80, I would be very surprised if we don't see this taking all of Untamed's section of the pie. And that's exactly what we're seeing. This, at 80, is the highest represented house.
Oh, completely. Completely. I mean, 20%, so you're talking not even a fifth of decks, with a significant number of decks. My mind's can't do maths in my head at the moment.
Well, if we think back to the stat numbers with the Amber Control being 50% higher, with Shadows and Dis, that kind of makes sense because out of the 5 sets, the 4 of them have Dis, all 5 have Shadows, and they're very good at controlling Amber.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So, I mean, we're looking at Sanctum. Is Sanctum and Sorin are similar?
Andrew, I can understand why Logos is below Shadows and Sanctum because I imagine a lot of people expected to see KOTE Rush, and as good as Logos is, its Amber control side is very weak. So you'd be looking more for Logo support houses
Yep.
than you would be for Logo combination and popping like time traveling ones, unless you were one of the people bringing the Rush deck.
I mean, I would say Logos always has been a high house, but it's there to as an assistance house to keep the replay of whichever other houses you need on more than average. Yes, there are strong Logos houses, but normally there to accelerate the playing of other houses.
What's very interesting is that a third of the decks are essentially 60% of the decks are made up by Mass Mutation and Worlds Collide, but less than 10% of them are Saurian.
Yeah,
And Starlight's only been at 12.
that's it shows the new houses aren't having as much love. Even I thought Soren would be higher, to be honest. But
I mean,
been
most people would say that the Bromnar's where it's supposed to be because Worlds Collide Bromnar is a hot topic.
Let's not
But
go there.
Mars isn't even in the biggest houses. But for the new houses that were introduced just before and were quite strong in Mass Mutation, to make up 20% of the pie combined is kind of interesting. Yeah. Oh, the other. Oh. Yeah. I can't see the playoff. I imagine I have to wait till it's now up to shoot.